is centered on leadership. So I have two questions for you. The first one is out there in the public, including my own self, there is this notion that this your organization is a secret cult. Many say it's a religious organization, but the majority is a secret cult. I want you to clarify this to let us know actually what does AMOC actually stands for. That is my one question. My second question is your speech, like I said, is centered on leadership. We are all Nigerians. We are all Nigerians. And since 2015, the incumbent president of Nigeria and the person of President Muhammadu Buhari took over the leadership of this country. And since then, till this moment I speak, Nigerians have been complaining bitterly. Many have said Nigeria has attained the status of a failed state. I want to ask, does AMOC believe that Nigeria is a failed state? That is number one question. Sorry, I have three questions. Sorry, sir. That is the second one. Thirdly, the Nigerian general election is around the corner. The clock is seriously ticking. By next year, Nigerians will be going to the poll. And there's this clamor for power shift. People are saying that the next president of Nigeria should come from the southern institution. Why some non-Nigerians also insisting that they're going to retain power? What is the view of AMOC on the presidency of Nigeria? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I hope you all had the questions, and I hope if we have some quiet, please. Hello, let's have one house. Thank you. I request that during this session, we don't distribute any refreshments so that we can have the solemnity we require to face the press. Thank you. First of all, the resolution of the AMOC from its inception has made it abundantly clear that it is not a religion. And it is actually with religion and religious groups that you have cults, religious cults, or bottom line secret societies. On the other hand, we are an educational, cultural, and philosophical organization of men and women who are devoted to the investigation, study, and practical application of universal laws. These are natural and spiritual laws in creation. In doing this, we know that not everybody is ready for a deep knowledge or the desire to acquire a deep knowledge of the profundity of these laws. And so, even though the laws are universal, their comprehension requires a commitment and diligent study on the part of those who are probing into the mysteries of life. And so we have a study program that is orderly and systematically fashioned from the base of the pyramid of study, where we have the new 5 section of the work, in which we familiarize new students with the terminology we use. And because it's a graded system of study, over time, as you climb the ladder of the study program, it becomes a little bit more profound, requiring a little bit more attention and concentration to acquire. And usually, in all study, whether we're looking at intellectual from primary through secondary to tertiary institutions, some privacy is required for you to have an environment in your own home, in this case, to be able to study the lessons, assimilate the teachings, and learn to work various exercises we have in place in the privacy of your own home throughout members of the public who serve them. And in every sense of the word, we contribute to the moral well-being and growth of civilized society. And I teach one. The other thing I want to say is that not a political organization. Our members are free, just like they belong to any religion of their choice, either by birth or by conviction, and can change if they wish from one religion to another. Also are free to belong to any political party of their choice within the democratic norms of a civilized society. And therefore, to that extent, we are into a celebration of the civil liberties. We do not think that the basic freedoms, freedom of association, freedom of worship, freedom to change from one religion to another or one political party to another should deprive of our members. And so we are like all citizens of any country, nation, or a common humanity, as free as air to exercise our civic rights, to vote and be voted for. Understandably, senior officers may not have to get involved with partisan politics because they have to serve the entire community of Rosicrucian students throughout the world. But they are free to do so if they are not holding highest offices and may affiliate. But otherwise, from a strictly organizational point of view, we are not into politics. Remember that there is some difference between political activity and statesmanship. Most of our members are statesmen. It turns out that here and there in various countries of the world, we have persons who are in politics at various levels or tiers who are also members of AMOC. But none of our Rosicrucian ideals is compromised by virtue of service to nation or service to humanity to the best of our knowledge. That said, as it pertains to Nigeria being a failed state, it depends on by what yardsticks and parameters. Our host Grand Chancellor, who was head of mission to Japan for Nigeria, as he explained, between 2008 and 15, has told you his own experience in Japan. I can tell you also that at the World Convention in London in 1971, I chanced to also come across a gentleman by name of Morita. He was president of Sony Incorporated. He had been with Sony since 1946, and he rose to the pinnacle. And he shared some thoughts with me about the keys for Japanese trade success in world business. If some of you, not you, but maybe some of our officers and members here will recall Expo 70, 1970 in Japan. And they came up, wanting to become very close to the highest, if not the highest, in technology throughout the world. They averred to themselves that is just a matter of time, and many things were going to happen. If they were going for world trade fairs, the Japanese team would be like an Olympic team. They had experts and specialists from various fields: engineering, medicine, law, survey, building, aviation, and all that. And directly as they land in a particular country, they set to work, penetrate the market, see what is in the market, the supermarkets, the usual regular markets, the street markets, see any or all of Japanese products that are being sold there and all that, then go back to their hotel room, put notes together, and then think of how to strategize to take over the world in trade, in commerce, in industry, and what have you. And before long, shortly after the 1970 Expo 70 in Tokyo, we started noticing a few things. 3 or 4 years later, the Japanese are taking over from Switzerland watchmaking industry, taking over from Britain shipbuilding industry, taking over from the US automobile industry, taking over from Germany, and so on and so forth, camera industry and all that. At the end of the day, if you study their products, and for those of you who were around, 1970, Nigeria then was during the 10th independence anniversary, and we found out very many types of cars, Datsun, Toyota, which is still on now, Mazda, some of you remember those, of various shapes, various sizes, various mechanisms and all that. The idea was for them to produce the largest variety in the market so that consumers have a choice. You had their cameras, and what Canon, all of them, and they dominated the world and are still in technology. His Excellency Professor Godwin Abu has shared with us in the theme lecture, various things that happen in Japan and their culture and attitude to life and living. It's a highly competitive society. If any of them disappoints the country, it's a serious thing. And it's not a joke. Here we laugh over and trivialize many things because, by the way, for Africans, Nigeria being the most African country, laughter is part of our culture, isn't it? We do so very generously. But you see, if we harness the forces at our disposal, natural, mineral, and human capital, and the various other things associated with this, we will excel. We don't necessarily need to compete with anybody. A population of over 200 million people has enough market for each and everything. If you go back to your father's days, there were methods of storing yam in vans, true or false. This part of the country was known for coal. And with coal, we powered the locomotive trains we had, moving from Lagos all the way to Lokoja, with the sound, Lokoja, too far. You remember this music? Then we had in the northern part of the country, what did we have? Groundnut pyramids. Some of you remember this, groundnut pyramids. And these pyramids, which we understand are currently being replaced by rice pyramids, are not a sign of failure, but some progress. Only we regret that instead of substituting the groundnut pyramids with rice pyramids, we could have them side by side. That's the way forward. We don't ignore or neglect the level we have reached before. We add to it, we improve upon it, we enhance it for the welfare of the collectivity. In the western part of the country, what did we have? Cocoa. And with cocoa, Chief Obafemi Awolowo and Cocoa Premier of the western region then established Cocoa House, Liberty Stadium, free education, and all that and all that and all that. Those landmarks of achievement, including infrastructural developments, electricity, Western Nigerian television, good roads, Liberty Stadium, all of those things are still there. Then in the south area, what we call South now, we had in the Delta, it was Bendel State, we had palm oil, we had all of those things, we had many of those things. Today, when you talk about Malaysia doing very well, they got the palm something from across and just utilize it, explored it and expanded it. And from the airport in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, you see all these palm things all over. Any of the things we have mentioned in any of the parts of Nigeria is enough to sustain the economy of the nation. to talk of when all are combined. But you know, when you talk about the problem of Nigeria, you can say many things. In this very city, in 1978 or so, I did a TV program, the Anambra State Broadcasting Corporation, then on Nigeria's national destiny. And I felt that the greatest challenge we had was that Nigerians are not serious. What did I just say? Nigerians are not serious. And I didn't exclude myself in that interview. By the time I finished, the TV crew said whether I could oblige them with 15 minutes of additional interview. Downstairs in the studio. So I said, if you're asking for 15 minutes, I can give you 1 hour. And we spoke for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. I did not exclude myself. I said I too was guilty of unseriousness. And I gave the reasons. You see, a little seriousness on the part of Nigeria goes a long way. In common terms, you've seen us in a place like Atlanta in the 96 Olympics. Something occurred to these people in the middle of the game that even though they were 3 goals down, they can afford to be serious. And so they came up. The next thing we had was that the boys had equalized, and that match was won. Now, so by seriousness also, I mean responsibility. You know, if we are a little bit more responsible, I recommend to you maybe focus on nation building, the focus for the month of November, responsibility. Leadership entails responsibility. In French, it's noblesse oblige. If we are able to accept responsibility for our own lives, instead of putting the blames on others, whether these others are witches and wizards or mosquitoes, whatever you think, this idea and approach and attitude of putting blames on others means we do not want to accept responsibility for our failure and sadly for our success. To think that other persons from other places would do things for us is a fallacy. We run abroad for medical treatment. You know that on the part of many dignitaries in this country. And when they get there, they will tell you, look, this matter you have is beyond most of us. We are waiting for our consultant, topmost consultant, who will be available 2 to 3 days time, who will attend to you. And you wait in the hospital for 2 to 3 days time, and then the consultant they have been waiting for comes. And he sees you and finishes with you and all that. Then he greets you, Kedu. Kedu. And then he said, are you a Nigerian? He said, no, I'm just a human being. I understand Nigerian language, that's all. This is no way of telling you that if you had an enabling environment in your own country, this country, you will have no business going to a very cold, chilly place as if he's walking inside a refrigerator to be practicing his profession. So if we are serious, first at the personal level, and secondly at the level of the collectivity, this designation of Nigeria being a failed nation will be transformed. Everybody will see us as a very successful, vibrant nation, which I believe we are. And then you won't have this sense of shame that you have, which is why I emphasized in my opening address, I don't think it's even a keynote address, the fact that each of us should be diligent at our post. And you know, diligence does imply accepting responsibility. If we are hardworking, and most Nigerians are, and we put our acts together with collaborative efforts, even the pandemic that has bedeviled the rest of the world will submit to us to overcome it. And it will be our vaccines as we used to, with previous virologists in this country, you know, produce vaccinations. And so we should be able to do this. But when the basic thing is electricity, it's not there. Without power and energy, what can you really do in technology? We had in this city of Institute of Management and Technology We had all this. So the success, failure, or otherwise of the Nigerian state is in our hands. This third question was pertaining to what now? A power shift. You see, the country was down so many years ago. At that time, I believe the military head of state was Muhammadu Buhari. And the next in command was Tunde Diabo, chief of staff, supreme headquarters. And everybody was feeling so gloomy, how things were, etc. and all that. Out of the blues, what happened? We had the news that the Nigerian team won a certain cup, Beijing, China. They all arrived. It was when the pronouncement was made that streets should be named after them. We discovered they were all from the Edo Delta axis. In fact, the streets in Benin will have been completely changed. So all of them are from one place. You see, this is the point I want to make by that story. When we want us to be represented in an international polo tournament, and you bring, because of federal character, which became a euphemism, more or less, for tribalism, you bring from, say, Rivers State, somebody that has not played this game, but because of federal representation, is to represent us in polo. When he mounts the horse and the horse throws him off, what will they say? Nigeria has cracked the head. If you bring in an international swimming competition somebody from Sokoto who may not have seen water to represent us in swimming because of zoning or federal character or things like that, and then this person drowns, they will say Nigeria has a drowned. So it should be clear to us that at the global level, nobody cares about where you come from. If all the people that represent us in a swimming competition must come from Bayelsa or Rivers State, where water in abundance and the divers can stay underwater for hours, so be it. When we win, they will say people are from Rivers, Bayelsa. I said Nigeria won the cup in international swimming competition. That's all. So I will suggest to us, not just from a personal point of view, but from the point of view of Rotationalism and the laws we have studied and believed, that these things should be based on competence, on character, and on capacity. Competence, character, and capacity. In other words, merit. Those who deserve to be in positions of leadership should be given these positions. If it so happens that most of them come from a certain part of the country, there will be areas of high level of achievement and attainment in other spheres of life from which other parts of the country come from. You can see the cultural troop we had this morning. If you want to have dances, cultural dances in Nigeria, if you see those from the middle belt of Benue dancing, I see they have no bones at all. Many of you have seen their cat dance. Is it, and if you go to the western side of the country, the culture is variegated and very appealing and all that, from drums to dancing, singing and all that. We have this in the vastness, the diversity of this vastness and the vastness of this diversity we have is part of our very rich cultural heritage. We are therefore better off as one nation and do all we can to maintain that cohesiveness with a sense of direction and focus, because it has been observed by some of us that even if you create, you states present 36 states, you double us, and we have 72 states, there will still be agitation for more states, true or false. The reason being that if a new state is created and the boundary passes through your father's house, those in the parlor may not greet those in the room, and vice versa, because each has become a new state, a new local government, and all that. So again, here, the formula for us to adopt wouldn't be creating a million states, but realizing that even if 2 million states, we are about one state, one nation state called Nigeria. You know, granted that centers for development are increased when you have more states than a few. But again, it depends on the available resources. Each local government has something peculiar to it in this country out of the 774 local governments. And if we are to take that into consideration, there is enough for us to share, to develop, to enjoy, to grow. But again, if at the center, there is a sense of justice and fair play in sharing the Commonwealth that we have as a nation, and there is equity, you will find that out of the resources of each locale, there is enough in the revenue allocation formula to cater for each and all. And this is the truth. If we are anchoring our principles of truth at the base of the pyramid and progressing upwards, you know, if we accept this as a foundation, that each state or group has something to offer and is entitled in return to something that will benefit all of its people, then we'll be moving forward. But when we are so myopic as to think that our own state or tribe or ethnic group should monopolize the resources, we act in violation of the Rotational Creed of Peace, for instance, and our contribution to peace will be very little because of a selfish approach to life and living. The more altruistic we are, the better for our nation state. In a small book pamphlet, and I think you will have a copy of this many years ago, made it focus for nation building, this was highlighted. And I said the cup of tea for our national development will be tolerance, E for efficiency, and A for altruism. Without that, to govern and successfully lead at the political level, a nation as heterogeneous as Nigeria will be a very serious uphill task. So I can confirm first that we are an open organization, Rotational, we are a secret organization. Two, Nigeria is not a failed state. And that the way for mineral resources and human resources is to base our considerations and appointments on merit. Thank you. Yes. Oh, okay. I'm being informed that there is a particular Rosicrucian principle that is working for me and for all of us today. That is that we here in the front desk representing all of you, and then the gentlemen of the press over there have been in attunement with one another, and that the little words I have spoken have encompassed answers to all the questions they had in their mind. So So you see that the Rosicrucian principles work, true or false? Thank you very much, gentlemen of the press. Have a very lovely day. We have some stuff to be given to you, some hand literature, and Fraterlin is coming with them for you. Here we go. Please just indicate. Okay. Yeah, Franz and Soros, please be seated. We have there, I think we should just remain seated here. The four of us, or five of us, are remaining seated because we represent Franz and Soros, all of you. Igwe Udezuliko, okay, no, the other one, is not able to make it at this time because of other stuff that have bogged him down. And so there is the traditional presentation of Ulanos, which was supposed to break and all that. We'll handle this on his behalf. Chief Farinze Obasi is presenting this to the host Grand Chancellor, who in turn will be on behalf of all of you presenting it to me, and I receive it. And as I hold it, I say these words, which are customary and traditional, that he who brings cola brings peace. And this peace is an offshoot of the combined factors of good health, of happiness, of harmony, of well-being, and of peace. And in accepting this cola and sharing it with all of you in a symbolic sense, I also accept that in our lives, wherever we see crookedness, we should act straight, think straight, and speak straight. And by such sincerity and honesty, extend the virtues of smoothing ripples to fellow humans. So from the point of view and symbolism of alcohol, which is my first chieftaincy title, one who makes the crooked straight, I pray that in your lives, we see anything that is crooked, straightened in your own interest, amicably. So, also, as I told Paula, I will also bear in mind that who brings unity where there is discord. I bless this cola for all of us to share so that there will be unity amongst us and as a sense of direction and focus for our common humanity. So would it be. And thirdly, I will also speak with you from the angle of my third chieftaincy title, which is Ureago, secretary, that is mentioned in Genesis. And this secretary, you don't tamper with it, do anything to scatter it. It will help you, but cannot be hurt. And in the name of this, may the blessings of real secretary be with each of us as we share this program. So much it be. finally, I must also greet you as Iyasere of Fabeting. Iyasere is Prime Minister, and we maintain our culture, our customs, and traditional heritage. So, on behalf of my dear wife, Chief Mrs. Bemi, who is also the one that brings harmony in the Zoro Kingdom, I salute each and all of you. She is also Aria, one who brings women forward. You can see I'm enviably flanked today by two women, and no wonder that the Sisters of the Rosy Cross keeps blooming. Up Sisters of the Rosy Cross, keep the rose blooming, up light bearers, keep the light shining. May these syrup members and light bearers who are truck bearers for the order also grow into leadership positions, not just at the level of our organization, but in their homes and for our common humanity in our country as shining examples of what true leadership by example should depict and mean. And so, in the name of Iyasere, I greet and salute all of you and bless this kingdom and ask, as I greet and share with you that all is well with us and that each and all of you remain blessed with an abundance overflow in all good things. So much it be. We don't forget them because without them we can't go very far. True or false? Okay, brothers and sisters, from this moment we'll be going on a short break, and I know that lots of you are itching to enjoy the break as well. I will be handing over to the distinguished master of ceremonies, who will tell us where we go. I want to make these announcements while all of us are very quiet.
Thank you very much, most worthy Grandmaster, for performing this very important and symbolic action on our behalf. I have been informed by the chairman of the local organizing committee that we'll have light refreshments here in this hall, after which we'll go for our lunch break. So we'll reconvene for the Mystical Congress by 1:15. We'll come back to the hall by 1:15 so that we can settle in for the Mystical Congress that will be moderated by one of our grand counselors. So let's sit and get our light refreshments, and then we'll go for lunch break. Thank you very much.